All right, I'm with Michael Davidson. He's a dental hygienist. He is the inventor of the MD brush, and I'm going to get into what that is and the story behind it and how it came about. Mike, can you just tell us about what the actual brush itself, how it's different than your typical manual brush?
Absolutely. As a dental hygienist, I've spent about 20 years in the clinical practice, and we've seen a lot of patients that present themselves with periodontal disease, and on average, I think the national statistic was about 70% of people had gum disease. And over the course of my career, I began to realize that the gum disease was triggered not so much as a genetic, but as actually a function of how they're brushing their teeth. And so what we decided to do was to create a toothbrush that addressed the most common user errors that people have while brushing. And given that the ADA, American Dental Association, recommends the BAS technique as the most effective technique, that's the technique that we tried to focus on with the brush. And so the brush has three features of it that are designed to incorporate the BAS technique. The grip is one portion of it. There's some visual indicators on the bottom of the brush, and then most importantly is the bristles. They're actually designed to uh, grip the tooth at a perfect 45-degree angle. And there's three rows of bristles. Excuse me. There's three rows of bristles on the toothbrush. The two outer rows are cut at a V shape, and the center row is about 3 millimeters longer than the outer, and it's also made of tapered bristles. And so when the bristles engage the tooth, you're really only using two rows of bristles at any one time. And the green tapered bristles will actually penetrate down into the sulcus. And so if the handle is 45 degrees, you've checked visually with the indicators, and the bristles are on the tooth at 45 degrees, all you have to do is just provide the short back and forth motion side to side.
I know some people are probably thinking there are thousands and thousands of manual brushes out there and all different designs. Is this something that's just not out there at all? Is this?
There is. I think Butler makes a brush that has a grip that's similar,
Mhm.
but I don't think that there's a brush out there. Well, in fact, I know there's not because we have the patent on it
Yeah.
that actually engages the tooth with the bristle head at a 45 degree.
Mhm. Yeah, the one thing I watched some of the videos you have and some of the photos, and to me the biggest advantage I would say is to basically the way it's designed, and it's a way of almost forcing the patient into the correct brushing technique,
hmm
because that's one of the issues, as you know, as a hygienist yourself, teaching a patient how to brush correctly.
That's right. As when you're with your patients, really all it takes is you can take a standard brush, put it in their mouth at the correct angle,
Hmm.
and they begin to understand what that feeling is because brushing has, if you do it correctly, it feels a certain way. And so the idea was to incorporate that same level of education that you give your patients into the product. And so
Hmm.
if they follow the guidelines of the brush and they begin the brush, then all of a sudden they're going to feel what correct brushing is. And
Yeah.
then it becomes more of a habit. What we're really fighting more than anything is the behavior of brushing.
Hmm.
So often when and you can remember in third grade health class when someone came in and they did this,
Yeah.
they
Right.
did this. And consequently, those are the techniques that we continue to use as adults. And as you and I both know, they don't work quite well. Consequently, 70% of people have gum disease. So the trick is to how to get people to change the behavior and more importantly, the muscle memory that occurs in the arm
Mhm.
while they're brushing. And so as you just said, the brush is designed to force them into the correct position.
I get a lot of patients that they always ask, should I buy a power brush? One of those expensive Sonic or whatever type brushes, and I always kind of hesitate. I always say it's not really the brush, it's how you use the brush.
Sure, it's just like a golf club. You can buy the
Right,
latest, greatest golf club, and your game's still going to be it's still
right.
going to suck.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, there was a study that when we were initially beginning the process of designing and patents that I ran across, and it compared a manual brush to a Sonicare. And if I recommend a power brush, it will always be a Sonicare because it's a great product.
Mhm.
Um, but in the hands of a dental student, clinically, there was absolutely no difference between a dollar manual brush and the $150 Sonicare. And the reason is that they knew how to use it, and they were using the BAS technique.
Mhm. Right, exactly. Yeah. Um, one of the brushes that we sold in the first office I worked in was the Rotodent. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and it was a big thing to basically show the patient. It was a big thing, like to really have to demonstrate and show how to use the technique of the Rotodent. It's almost like a prophy angle, right? The way it was
yeah,
shaped. And I always thought to myself that was just too much for the patient to ask for the patient, from the patient to do that.
correct.
It was just so that's kind of why I kind of like this idea you have, because the way it's designed, it again, it just forces the patient into that correct position.
Sure.
Yeah. Uh, let's see. The other question I was going to ask you, Mike, is as far as testing. I know people are going to ask, has it been tested as for its effectiveness and that kind of stuff?
We've done clinical trials in our private practice, and the University of Texas will be conducting clinical trials. I believe this September. No, excuse me, this August, and that result or that test will be completed in December of 2015. And so that is our first. That'll be a pilot study that'll be conducted, and then we'll go on to a full-blown study after that.
Mm-hmm. How long is that process going to be?
I think the actual study will run 3 weeks, and then they'll actually have to compile all the data, and that's going to take a little longer. And it should, as far as I know, it will be published. I have a meeting with them on the 12th of this month to discuss the study itself. So I'll have more details then after that.
Yeah, so I want to kind of get into the story behind it, how you came up with the idea and all of the challenges you had with manufacturing. That's a pretty interesting story, I think. So how'd you come up with the actual idea? Like, did it just come to you one day, or did it just
we just had our daughter, and I mean and I had a lot of downtime on the weekends, and so I'm kind of a tinkerer. I have a garage that's just full of random tools, and I started thinking about the problem of brushing, and why so many people have gum disease, and in particular, I had patients that were coming in using the latest, greatest, power brushes, and they still had gum disease, and so the question became, why is that? And again, it went back to what I said earlier. It was really about training people to brush correctly. And so the question was, how do you incorporate that? And so, I went down into the garage and I carved a piece of wood, and I added some clay molding to it, and I said, okay, well, this handles the grip. Well, how would you check visually? And then, I knew what the bristles should be, because I knew that you had to clean the occlusal surface of the tooth and the sulcus simultaneously. And so I knew that center row of bristles would have to be longer. I also knew it would have to be tapered, because tapered bristles clean better.
Yeah.
And so once we had a basic design of the brush, then it became a question of, do we have something that's patentable? And so with any patent, if you're going to follow, go through the process, you need to do a patent search first. So we found a patent attorney, and we did a patent search, and that came out negative. And so it's okay. Well, all right, we've got something, so let's go ahead and file a patent. So we filed a patent, and then it became, let's make this, and we had to get multiple designers involved that worked with CAD programs, and that took I'd say almost a year to get the computer design and the manufacturing graphics laid out correctly.
Yeah.
And then once we had that, then it was finding somebody to manufacture it, and that was the real key. Originally, we wanted to have it made in the United States, and so we talked to 2 separate companies here in the United States, and both of them, they pretty much just laughed at us. They said, what you're trying to attempt here is unprecedented. It's going to be way too expensive. It's too difficult to manufacture. The rotation speed of the mold is going to be too slow, and it was really kind of disheartening to hear that. And so we spent a little bit of time doing that, and then we
Were these companies that were already making toothbrushes, Mike, or is
Yeah,
this?
they're making some big ones.
Okay.
Think
Yeah.
of any toothbrush out there, and these
Yeah.
guys are subcontracted by
Yeah.
the big four, if you will.
So trying to go through a manufacturer that wasn't making toothbrushes would be just too much of an obstacle, I guess, like to start from scratch, I guess. Is that the case?
Wait, say that again.
If you're going through a manufacturer that is not currently making toothbrushes, and you just
Um,
brought it to them and said, "I want to make this toothbrush," is that probably something that'd be difficult to do or almost impossible?
it would be almost impossible because
Yeah.
the tooling involved in it.
Yeah. It'd be too
The tip.
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, in the process of making a toothbrush, there's several components. You obviously have to have the CAD engineering files that
Hmm.
determine it. Then you have to have an injection mold, and
Yeah.
then you have to have bristling machines. You have to have sanding machines, packaging, and so on. To give you there's only two companies in the world that make the cutter and the picker that
Hmm.
actually insert the bristles, and the one's in Germany and the other one's in Belgium.
Okay.
And just a handful of tools is a huge amount of money.
I gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
But the machines themselves, there's the primary company is called Zoronsky, and they
Hmm.
make all the sanders, cutters, and pickers, and pretty much every toothbrush that's ever made is made on a Zoronsky machine.
Hmm.
And so to go outside of a company that doesn't make toothbrushes,
It'd be yeah, just impossible. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
they wouldn't touch it. And so we found a company that was willing to work with us in China, and so we had them make a single cavity prototype mold, and I don't know, it was about 400 pounds, a small block of steel about that big.
Hmm.
And we spent about 18 months with them, designing that, tweaking it, making adjustments, and so on. And in the end, because there's a significant language barrier in China, so that was a little difficult to deal with. And then also they were subcontracting, so they weren't building the entire brush in-house. They were subcontracting the bristles out to another company, subcontracting the packaging out, and so on. So everything was going in three different directions.
Yeah.
Needless to say, that relationship, not that it was, it just didn't work for us because it was
Yeah.
just too complicated to manage. And so we found another company that was Japanese owned that had a factory in Vietnam. And these guys turned out to be a godsend. They did everything in house. They were already making toothbrushes. They had all the machines. Um, any question we had, they could answer. It could certainly modify if we had, adjustments to the design. Um, and so it worked out really well. And so here we are today.
How did you find these manufacturers, Mike? Was
On the web.
but yeah, there you go.
Yeah, just
Google,
hash it out.
yeah, Google, yeah.
Yeah, and I would encourage anybody who's
Yeah.
planning on doing business overseas is that you have to, the process should be communicate via email,
Hmm.
then via Skype, and then before you do anything you need to go over there and visit them,
Yeah.
take a good look at them.
Hmm.
And luckily the Japanese are really about creating relationships,
Oh,
which is something that I didn't feel with the Chinese.
yeah, yeah. Did they make you a prototype to actually test out?
No, the what we did is they used the single cavity mold from China. We had that shipped over to Vietnam,
Hmm.
and so we used that to modify it. And so once we had everything corrected, we went into the full cavity production mold in Vietnam, which is 4 cavities.
Okay.
Now, what's interesting about that is that did you listen to the NPR story?
I did. Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so you know that we made the first 4 cavity mold, and there was an issue with the shrinkage
Yes.
of the brush, and that was something that I don't think anybody really anticipated, that our design was so unique that it didn't shrink at all.
Hmm.
And so that first 4 cavity mold ended up being scrapped because of a shrinkage issue. And so then we had to go back and tweak the CAD file to make it 3% smaller, and so
Wow.
everything would work out. Yeah.
So,
So
yeah, because a 4 cavity mold was pretty expensive, right? Right? Isn't it?
yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the standard 4 cavity mold. Here's another reason that it didn't work out in the States is that a 4 cavity mold in the United States will typically run about maybe $50,000.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
in Asia, in the Asian markets, you can do that for about 20,000.
Yeah. It's
So
a big savings
considerably,
there.
yeah, it's quite a considerable cost savings.
Was there any FDA issues or?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. The any toothbrush, it's considered a Class 1 medical device,
Yeah.
and it requires that the brush you have to register as yourself as a primary importer of the product and designer, and then also the factory manufacturing it has to be registered with the FDA,
Hmm.
and there's a standard licensing fee that you have to pay annually.
Yeah. Um, I was checking out your packaging on the for the product, Mike. It's I like how the back shows visuals on how to use the brush.
Hmm.
Is that something that was easy to implement, like to get into the packaging, or how's the packaging process? Was that?
Packaging process requires you have to have a Adobe Illustrator designer
Hmm.
for the graphics. And everything's done on Adobe Illustrator, and it's pretty easy, as far as the text. You just cut and paste what you want into it, and
Hmm.
it's. I mean, it goes way over my head, but
Right.
there was a lot of times where we were, I would get a piece of paper and I would actually draw out the back of the package and scan it over and say, okay, make it look like this, and then
Right.
they would beautify it
Yeah.
and do their bit to it. But
It looks it
it
looks
that
good. I like how it looks. Yeah.
yeah, and believe it or not, we're redoing it again. So
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So as far as purchasing the brush, Mike, I see you got an online store. Is that the main place people can buy the brush? Is on the
right
online
right now it is,
website?
yeah, yeah.
Do you guys have plans of going retail or?
We do. You know, the we certainly don't want to, eliminate any aspect of it. Our bread and butter is the subscription service
Mhm.
where the brushes are sent to the user every 3 months. But we have a marketing company that we're using in New York,
Mhm.
and have really been pushing us to break into the retail market.
Yeah.
And so we're currently in talks with a Whole Foods market. Um, we have an investor that's interested as well.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of a unique product. It also has a higher price point.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it's going to be ideal for stores like Walmart and
Yeah.
CVS and your corner drugstore. I
Yeah,
think,
I was thinking the same thing, Mike, as far as competing with the $2, $3 brushes, in the WalMarts and the Targets and that kind of place.
yeah,
Because it kind of requires a little bit of education, which the
yeah,
packaging actually helps quite a bit.
yeah,
Uh,
it does.
but the idea of having it shipped every 3 months, I think that's a great idea because
Hmm.
it's going to systemize the process for the patient. They don't have to think about it. They can just say, "All right, hey, 3 months is my brush. Let me throw my old one out and use this one." I think
That's right. Yeah,
that's the
man.
best way to go.
And so they can right now they can a user can sign up for a subscription. If they're a little fearful of that, they can get a single purchase where they get two brushes. They're shipped two at a time,
Yeah.
and then if they have a larger family, they can order a 6-pack. And then we were just given the idea of putting together a baker's dozen.
Okay. Yeah.
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 So that may be something we put
Yeah.
out there as well.
There's quite a few companies out there doing a lot of that subscription thing, like a Dollar Shave Club, Nature Box, all those things. You don't have to think about it; it just shows up to the door.
Yeah,
It's a great idea.
I think home goods are certainly going that direction. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I did any retail shopping. I think this year's Christmas was done entirely on Amazon, so
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
just makes it so much easier.
Um, any plans to sell to dental offices and have them sell like you sell wholesale, they sell retail? Any plans of doing that?
We have actually sold to several dental practices already.
Hmm.
Um, the dental practice is a little different because we're a burgeoning company, and so you have to have um, like print. You have to have certain flyers and prints
Hmm.
and brochures and things like that. Then also display cases. So, we have to put all that together as well. We're designing a display box or a countertop display for dental
Hmm.
practices,
Yeah.
and that should be out pretty soon.
Hmm.
We're also planning on going to trade shows for the dental conventions. We will be at RDH under one roof
Okay.
this June, and then we'll also be at the uh, the one in Tennessee.
Yeah. Those are pretty expensive, aren't they, Mike, to get into those booths? I think I priced Yankee Dental. It was pretty expensive.
It depends on, they have three
Yeah.
tiers of
Yeah.
booths that you can purchase, and they start out at the high end at $3,500,
Mm.
and they go down to about $2,100.
Oh, not too bad. I think Yankee was like 10 grand. Yeah.
Well, when you think about it, the whole trip ends up being about 10 grand when you factor
Yeah,
in
yeah,
airfare, hotel, and
yeah,
everything
yeah,
else.
yeah, exactly.
So,
So as far as the price, I just bought some myself, like on Friday, so I'm gonna get those at some point and try them.
yeah, I don't know why you decided to buy them. I would have just sent them
Oh,
to
I
you.
don't know. I just pay. I just say it was like what, 22 bucks I pay for the two, and then if you subscribe, it's a little bit cheaper, right?
Yeah, it's 22 for a single purchase order, and then $20 for the subscription.
Yeah, which is, and that's two brushes, right? That come in the pack,
Yeah,
right? So yeah,
two brushes per
so
pack.
you're looking at 10 bucks a piece. It's not. I mean, to me, compared to a power brush, one of those high-end power brushes, it's pretty cost effective. And it's very efficient. I mean, I'm gonna try and see how it works. I'm sure it works fine, but
Yeah.
so as far as, let's see, so marketing, Mike, you got the website. I see you got some videos on YouTube. You got a company you mentioned that, doing some marketing for you, and now you're gonna go to the hygiene conventions. Any other marketing ideas you want to work on? Facebook or any kind of like that kind of
Yeah,
stuff?
we do have a Facebook page.
Okay.
We have a pediatric brush that's been designed
Hmm.
already. We just have to create the mold, and so that should be coming online within the next 6 months.
Hmm.
We're also thinking very seriously about a sonic version.
Yeah.
The trick with that is that we have to make sure we don't infringe on any existing patents,
Mm.
and so we have to find a technology that's within the public domain, and then get that inside a toothbrush.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. There's more challenges. Yeah.
Yeah, from an engineering standpoint, it's
Yeah.
always something. And my business partner is Mike Smith, and he's a dentist, and I've worked for him for going on 14 years now.
Hmm.
And so he's kind of more of the money side of it. I'm more on the engineering
Yeah.
aspect of it.
Yeah.
So that's the part I really enjoy. It's just the challenge of it.
Do you still work full time? Right.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you
So,
find time? Yeah.
you know,
How do you find time for that? Training for a triathlon and all that.
yeah. Well, I don't do triathlons anymore.
No.
But when I see on average maybe 12, 13 patients a day,
Yeah.
and when I'm in between patients and during my lunch hour, I'm working on the company, and then I only work 4 days a week.
Yeah.
Usually one day in the middle of the week is when I'm out visiting practices
Hmm.
and focusing 100% on the toothbrush.
Yeah.
And as demand increases, then obviously I'll have to step away from the dental practice more and more.
Hmm. How do you feel about that?
Well, hygiene's been a really good career for me, and I know there's a lot of male dental hygienists that would say, well, there's discrimination and so on, but for me, it's been a great career. I mean, I've really enjoyed it. But at the same time, I've also been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah, a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm ready for a change. I'm ready for a new challenge.
Mhm.
And I enjoy doing this. I enjoy getting out and speaking with people one-on-one, and I enjoy more than anything is the educational part of teaching people about good brushing and the implications that it has to your systemic health.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you know, Mike, but I have a product that I sell too, the cone adapter. It attaches the isolate mouthpieces to the HVE. So
I saw that, yeah.
yeah, I went through a lot of the stuff you went, the FDA. As far as well, mine's machined, so I don't have a mold, but I had a second product that had a mold, and I had it done in the U.S., but it was one cavity mold, and it was like 4,000, so it wasn't
Yeah.
bad, but
That was for plastic, or
plastic, yeah, plastic.
yeah.
A very simple design, but so like with a toothbrush, there's more to it than just one piece, So
Oh yeah.
that's when it gets complex, yeah, then it gets crazy. But
Yeah, yeah. It's I can understand why so many toothbrushes are small.
yeah.
When you try to make something bigger, it becomes very, very complex to make.
Mhm. Well, over the years, I got quite a few emails from dentists mostly actually, but from hygienists too, saying, "Oh, I have an idea for a product," or they give me an idea, and they have no idea where to start. Do you have any advice for hygienists or even dentists out there that have a product but that they don't know where to go, or any?
You know, if I would say first and foremost is that if you believe in what you're doing, don't quit.
Hmm.
You know, if it's a good idea and you know that it's people are going to enjoy it, then don't stop. The first step is to find out if you actually have something, and I would say from that standpoint is to do a patent search.
Hmm.
Make sure that you really are unique, and
Yeah.
then if you have one, file immediately.
Hmm.
Because more often than not, as soon as you have an idea, somebody else does too,
Yeah.
and you want to make sure that you're protected from that standpoint.
Hmm.
So file the application, get that process started. You know, you don't have to pay it all at once. Patents usually run, about $6,000, $6,500
Hmm.
when it's all said and done, and the maintenance fees that go with it.
Hmm.
You're probably looking at closer to 10. Um,
I
but
know I know somebody that used LegalZoom just to do the provisional patent, so you can start with that, I guess. I haven't used it myself, so I can't say if LegalZoom was good or not, but
yeah,
they did it that way, and then I think it was like 1,500 to get it going. And then,
yeah. I mean, and that's just it. You know, you
yeah,
get it going. We didn't use a service like that. We went and used a straight attorney
yeah,
with it. And with me, I like to talk a lot, especially with the people that I'm writing checks to. So
right, yeah, yeah, that's true.
that way I can have a lot of interaction, and I make
Yeah,
sure that we get it right. And
yeah,
I just feel that sometimes with online services, um, especially with patents, because it's all in the details.
yeah, yeah.
And I think using a generic patent kind of leaves you exposed,
Hmm.
um, to other companies that may want to infringe on your idea.
Hmm. And you had a 7-year journey on this, right? I guess it's been a while.
7 years, yeah.
Yeah, so
So
can't give up. Yeah,
yeah, but again, we didn't. You don't know what you don't know.
yeah, exactly.
And so the first design, well, it was kind of interesting. There was a gentleman by the name of Charlie O'Hare, and he designed the first weed eater. I don't know if you remember it, but it was the green and yellow one that it was electric and you plug it in, and
Yeah,
real popular back in the early 80s. But
yeah.
um, so he designed that one. It just so happened that he lived pretty close to our practice.
Hmm.
And so we designed that brush from a standpoint using core injection, which was, when a mold comes together, it's usually sandwiched two pieces of steel, and then it's injected straight down in, and it fills the cavity, and then you bring it out, and it's a skeleton, and then you put it into another one, and that's how the overmolding or the colored portion is injected into it.
I gotcha.
Well, that's one method of doing it. There's another one called the core injection, and our first design was made for that, and that is where you have, again, it's a sandwich piece, but there is a beryllium pin that runs through it this way, and the plastic is injected as the pin is removed. And because what happened is that we found out that beryllium pin would have melted at about 15 minutes into the production run. Because of the temperatures.
I gotcha.
And so that was a year setback right there. It was completely redesigned.
Yeah, and that's got to be frustrating, I'm sure.
Again,
Yeah.
you just don't know what you don't know. But
Yeah,
again, we couldn't give up, and we
yeah.
knew it was a good idea, so you just kind of continue to go along, and
Hmm.
so
Yeah, I always tell a hygienist, Mike, that if you want to do something that's outside the clinic, for the most part, it's not a straightforward path to to these things. You have to. I mean, I'm sure it's a lot of long nights for you, like with no paycheck in sight, with no, you gotta just work at it on your own time and hope for the best. Hope for the best, and clinical hygiene is a pretty straightforward path. You get hired by a dentist for the most part. If you want to do anything else, it's you have to kind of create it yourself. So,
that's right. Yeah.
it's stressful, but sometimes, but
I think the most stressful part of the whole business was the day that we launched.
Yeah.
Is dealing with a website. I'm not a coder,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a lot of issues that we had with the website right off the bat, especially with processing credit cards. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, and it was, again, you just don't know what you don't know, and so you try to test it as many ways as you possibly can to anticipate issues that may occur. but there's always about 10 or 15 more that you didn't anticipate.
Exactly. Always ever be something, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so
I,
that first 2 weeks of launch, I think I slept maybe 10 hours total.
yeah, yeah.
Waking up at 3 a.m., and
Yeah.
I've got 5 emails. Hey, I can't place my order, and I'm just
You're
like,
like, damn it.
yeah,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was a real stressful. But I think we've got it all ironed out now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, having a plan is a good thing, but get ready for that plan to break down.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And I have several mentors that have helped me along the way, and and they're extremely successful businessmen. You
Yeah.
know, multi-million-dollar companies.
Mhm.
And after having spoken with them, they all had the same thing to say: is that you're going to make mistakes. There's going to be issues, but how do you deal with it?
Mhm.
Uh, and there's a lot of truth to that statement.
Yeah.
So, once you have a mistake, you just have to kind of keep going. Can't give up.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I have a feeling it's gonna do well, Mike, because for me, the design is, I love simplicity,
Hmm.
but just the idea just works. It just seems, it's basically getting that patient not to have to think about the technique as much. I think that was an awesome idea. But,
Yeah, it's really about it's trying to get people to think. You know, we clean out our ears, we clean out our
mhm,
navel,
mhm.
but do we clean out our sulcus? How many people even know what a sulcus is?
Maybe
How
my
many?
sulcus, what's
Yeah, what's a
that?
sulcus? And so we're trying to get that term ingrained in the public mind. And so when they're brushing, they're considering that, and so that becomes the focus of their brushing, because general marketing, I think, is relative to the public. They have us thinking more about cosmetics, about white, and pretty and smiling,
Exactly, yeah,
but they're
cosmetic.
not thinking about bacteria control, into the gum line. And so that's what, our educational standpoint is really designed to teach them about getting into the sulcus and removing that bacteria that triggers gum disease.
Hmm. Exactly. That's awesome. All right, Mike. So the website for those that want to check it out is mdbrush.com.
Indeedbrush.com.
Yeah.
We also have a Facebook page and YouTube links.
Mhm.
We will be redesigning the website. We'll have
Okay.
some updates to that,
Mhm.
probably within the next month or so.
Yep.
And so they can purchase online. Again, they can do a subscription, they can do a single purchase order, or they can add in volume.
Mhm.
If they're interested in purchasing for their dental practice, they would need to contact me at info@mdbrush.com directly. We are anticipating putting up a professional tab on the site,
Mhm.
but as it stands right now, they have to contact me through that.
Yeah. And I'll have all those links on the blog post, Mike, so people can just go to the blog post at markrdh.com and it'll be all there. So you have
Sure.
to try to memorize it.
How many? I'm just curious. How many followers do you have?
I just kind of started. I basically started blogging seriously in 2014 because
Uh-huh.
before that I was basically blogging every now and then just to promote my product.
Uh-huh.
And now I'm just trying to build this up. I'm going to build this up, and I'm spending more money on Facebook ads to promote the blog.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm going to convert the audio files to all these interviews to a podcast eventually. And podcasts generally get way more downloads than YouTube videos. Like my
Mhm.
last one that I got like 400. Right now it's like a 400 something views on the last video, which is pretty, and it's a pretty targeted crowd. It's directed towards hygienists. So, but I'm hoping the blog is going to eventually get into the thousands and thousands. Not blog, but the podcast.
Yeah. How's
Thousands.
you're doing pay clicks on Facebook?
I promote the post. That's the best way to do it, I think.
You
So
you mean so you're not doing paid ads on
not
Facebook?
yeah, it's not an ad. It's just you post something on your business page, right?
Uh-huh.
I use my cone adapter page, so it's kind
Okay.
of like advertising two things at the same time.
Right.
And you just go there. I post the link to the blog, to the
Uh-huh.
video, and all that, and then you can boost the post. And I usually spend 20 to 60 bucks, whatever it is, and that really drives it. And then sometimes what I'll do is for my product, I'll offer like a prize. You can win a free thing, and I just ask people to share, to like and share the post, and that drives a lot of traffic too.
Right.
And that's kind of and then I just give away a cone adapter, which is not that much on my end. So
Yeah, we're considering doing some pay clicks here pretty soon. When you just brought up another one thing that we just completed was we're doing a refer a friend,
mm,
and so when somebody refers And that's another coding
Yeah.
lesson right there all in itself. But um, so when somebody refers 5 friends and those 5 friends purchase, then they get a free brush.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's very similar to what Dollar Shave Club does as well.
Yeah, yeah. Because to me, like having ads, I know Facebook has ads on the side and other websites where you can promote. I just feel like a lot of the banner ads that's kind of old school and people kind of don't see it, you know.
Mhm.
And if you promote a post, and I always promote things that people are gonna find interesting. Like the last one was about Career Fusion. I don't know if you know about Career Fusion in Florida. It's like a meeting. It's an annual membership thing for mentoring and networking for hygienists that want to do stuff outside clinic.
Right.
So I interviewed like the head coach from there and one of the participants that she went 3 times, and that was a very popular one, and I promoted that to hygienists. And so I share stuff that people actually want to see, and I don't try to promote like just like an ad, basically.
Hmm.
And that to me, I get a lot of traffic that way. So
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's
yeah,
great. Well, I love what you're doing. I mean, I think that's great, and it's good to see other male hygienists stepping
I know.
outside the box a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I read some of your blogs, and they were really good. So
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it.
you're doing a great job.
All right, Mike. So like, thanks for doing this again, and like I said, I'll have it posted in like a week or two or something like that.
Okay, can you send me a link when you do post it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I appreciate it. Okay, Mark, then.
All right. All right. Thank you.
All right, have a good day.
All right. You too. Bye.